Mary had a little man.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream. Change has come to America.
Believe me. Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
All right, folks, I want you to take a look at this. Joe Biden today getting on Marine One, and he stops and picks up, I think it's a dandelion, but it's a dandelion that hasn't even blossomed into a flower yet. Like, it gives everybody asthma. So you blow it, it goes everywhere, and then everybody starts sneezing. Well, he picks up the weed and gives it to Jill as what I guess is supposed to be some kind of a sweet gesture. He's getting dandelions all over the place. I say it was a planted dandelion there. Who knows?
That bastard. Happy Monday, everybody. Happy Monday. There you have a little sampling of what is poisoning America. The toxicity level on that clip from Newsmax is so high that you could only guess now why America is so freaking confused and divided and just a mess. A mess inside the Republican Party. That is what's going on inside that freaking party. It ain't even a fun party. What do you wear to a party like that? A tinfoil hat? I mean, I honestly don't understand. But I thought, Florida was the leading edge of crazy until we got a little gander at Arizona. Arizona, you have gone mad. You have gone insane. The inmates are running the asylum. However, the inmates built this particular asylum that's going on in Arizona. I thought Florida, really, Florida man, Matt Gaetz, Ron death sentence, I'm looking at like Florida's legislation in the last couple of weeks, and I'm thinking nobody's going to get close to this level of backcrap. Nobody, right? That we've passed here in Florida anti-trans laws. You can run over protester laws. You got, election suppression after a perfect election. I mean, Trump won here, and the election was not contested by anybody on any level, anytime, anywhere, in any county in Florida. And yet we decided, hey, let's change Florida election laws. Let's suppress votes here. Let's, put poll watchers in there. Poll watchers like from parties and candidates, camps of poll watchers to intimidate and to videotape and to, just basically scare people away from the polls while we take away their ability to vote by mail. Throw them all into the polling place, make the lines really long, and put poll watchers from candidates, in there and challengers and all this stuff. And they raise taxes all at the same time here in Florida. But you know what? It pales in comparison to this dirty recount thing that's going on in Arizona. Somebody asked me Friday, I guess, when did this start? Oh, the pressure of a date. It started on April 23rd. So here's my question. Today is what, May 3rd? All day. Why is it taking 2 weeks to count 2 million ballots in Maricopa County? Why? Why is it doing that? You see, this is craziness. This is mass madness, you maniacs, you. This is the Arizona, by the way, I have to, this just so, you had of the agitators for the January 6th insurrection, this violence where they, with depraved abandon, beat police officers, right, with, American flags and Blue Lives Matter flags. I mean, the irony is freaking endless on this, but it's also a disaster because it was so violent. And 140 police officers, as you know, were wounded, right? But I just want you to know that some of the agitators hailed from crazy Arizona. You had, Paul Gosar, Andy Biggs, and now we're finding out that there were 2 House members from the State House, from the, sounds like a insane asylum when you say the State House, right? Sounds like a place where, used to send people. But no, I'm talking about the state legislature in Arizona, which, by the way, is like all Republican, right? So you had Mark Fincham and a former representative named Andy Kern. Andy Kern, who apparently was present at the riot, was present at the insurrection, was present at the attempt to overthrow the results of a free and fair American election is now inside the convention center in Arizona counting the ballots. Does this make sense to anybody? I mean, there was no fraud, and if violence didn't make it so that there was fraud, well, then go inside and commit fraud when you're I don't know, this audit, are they going to count the ballots until the ballots say what they want the ballots to say? This is mass madness. This is crazy. This is Arizona crazy. This makes Florida look almost tepid. Almost, I said. I qualified. Words matter. So this is what's going on now in Arizona, and again, it's not going to change anything. I just want you to understand that when we talk about this fraudulent company and this, oh, by the way, you know this Cyber Ninjas company is from Florida, so you have this melding, this mixing of mass madness. It's a melding mix of mass madness, you maniacs, you. For those who are fans of alliteration. I just did that for you. No, but I mean, honestly, this is such a crazy attempt to overthrow an election, and of course, it has no chance of doing that. I just want you to know that I think Biden won Arizona by 45,000 votes or so. There is no way. Okay, now even if they somehow stay in there long enough. But I will tell you that they rented the center where they're counting the vote, the convention center. They rented it until May 14th. May 14th. So we may be, like looking at this for another 2 weeks of crazy, but it won't change anything. The votes for the election have been certified. And as you know, on January 6th, even though there were people who objected to the certificate, it was accepted and certified by Congress. So there's nothing that can happen here that would change anything. I mean, QAnon freaks, Michael Flynn, and, they think that, and Michael Lindell, and I mean, just crazy Lynn Wood, and they all think that, I don't know, Donald Trump is going to mysteriously be reinserted into the presidency, or he's going to, I don't know, parasail in and kick Biden out with his foot as he's no, that will not happen. It doesn't happen under our law. But it doesn't stop them from insinuating that there was some sort of effort to cheat. Now, I will tell you that I looked at Cyber Ninja, this guy who owns the company, okay? Like I told you, he's a snot-nosed little teenager, basically. You know how many employees that company has? Somewhere between 2 and 10. I mean, this is such an obvious attempt to stir controversy where there is none. This is such an obvious attempt to keep a lie alive, and it is a lie. Donald Trump today, he released, one of his statements, like we need to hear from, the yam. We don't need to hear from the yam man, okay? He didn't tweet. He's banned from Twitter. And in fact, Facebook is considering never letting him back on there because they don't want election lies on their platform, right? And so they're deciding, they suspended him, but now they're deciding whether. Anyway, he released a statement this morning, quote, the fraudulent, with random capitalization. I don't even understand who's writing this. It must be him. But it's random. The fraudulent presidential election of 2020 will be from this day forth known as the big lie in all caps. Donald, the election is over. You freaking lost because you are a loser. You were always a loser. You had a brief moment of, hey, let's try a loser. That's kind of what this country said. Let's try a racist loser. Let's see what happens. And then they rejected the racist loser. Now, the racist people are still part of the cabal, right? But the other people are like, okay, we tried that and it was terrible, Almost 600,000 people died, But it's over. This is done. Nothing's going to change. Nothing.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, The Randi Rhodes Show.
This audit is counterproductive, that it's not following established standards, that it was never necessary in the first place, that Arizona elections are incredibly professionally run and transparent and have can be observed by credentialed party representatives from all sides and are open to the public, open to members of the press. And now, after all those safeguards and the additional audits that the County Board of Supervisors, which is 4-1 Republican, performed, we have the state Senate led by a small group of members and aided by other state senators who really know better, right? Who really know that no good end is going to come out of this, running a closed to the public, calls itself an audit, doesn't have any of the hallmarks of an audit. People are looking at ballots. People are saying they're going to go door to door and contact voters and ask them questions. The press has been banned at various points. They've been restricted at various points. Members of the press have been kicked out. They've been confronted by people who are carrying guns. It's really unclear why this is happening and what possible good could come of it. And so I think it's important that people. Yeah, it's a mess.
It's a mess.
And it's important that people.
And if you're looking for a logical through line, it's really not there.
I mean, that was an Arizona Republican election attorney, okay? That is Krista Rose. It's not that you should know his name or anything like that. It's just that he is a GOP election attorney, and he is warning Americans that no good could possibly come out of this. It is a dirty attempt at a dirty, endeavor. It's a mess. It's not following any prescribed rules. It's banning media. The only media outlet that is allowed to live stream what's going on in there is... It's One America News Network, OAN. Now, I will tell you, you're entitled to your own opinion, but you are not entitled to your own news. You can't make up news. It either happened or it didn't. Okay? This is craziness where they sit there and they say, Joe Biden planted a dandelion and I mean, what the hell is going... Fox News is a bullcrap factory. It promotes white supremacy ideology. It promotes hatred. It promotes disinformation, misinformation, all in the name of power. This is all about power. This has nothing to do with facts or the world in which you toil or any endeavors you might try to undertake or educating yourself about anything, at all that would make a difference in your life. This is about, listen, I'll tell you what I did. This is crazy. I'm not a big TV fan. Well, I shouldn't say I'm not a big TV fan. I love television. I do. I love a lot of the stuff that's on television. There's a lot of crap, but there's a lot of, great offerings, especially, from the streaming networks that are producing their own stuff. It's really, some of it's very cutting edge. Some of it is breaking new actors, actresses, platforms that literally change up the way television looks and smells. Okay, that said, just so you know, I'm not a snob or anything. I am just a busy person, right? And I don't allow myself a lot of hours in front of a television set. It's just not anything I have, the luxury of doing. I guess if I were retired, that's where I would go. I'd be binging, I'd be watching. Okay, but this weekend, Howard went to visit the new grandbaby. And, his family is like over there and I'm over here. The way they want it. It is. So anyway, he went and I stayed, and I was bored out of my freaking mind. So I was on the phone with Jess. I don't know, like 2 hours, I could talk to her all day. Anyway, so we were talking about, like, what should I be doing? And I'm like, I'm just working. I'm not stopping. No, you have to unplug and plug in. You know what I mean? So what do I do? Watch Handmaid's Tale, because they just dropped, the next season, 3 new episodes. So I say, well, I have to go back and watch the first season so I can get the characters, back in my head because I haven't watched it in so long. And she goes, oh, that's what I'm doing. So go do it. We'll be doing it together. Okay. So that's what I do. I go and I binge watch the first season of Handmaid's Tale. And it is like jarring. Okay. It's jarring. Elizabeth Moss is amazing. Anyway, they're all amazing. So then I watch the 3 new episodes from season 4. This is what they just, dropped over, I guess last week. They and I see on Twitter, right, people saying, if you know someone who's watched episode 3 of season 4, you better call them because they're not okay. And I'm like, oh, that's, great PR and blah, 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 and whatever. So I go and I do this. I binge watch the first season, and then I go watch these last 3 from from this new season. Oh my God, it is the Republican Party. Okay, I mean, yes, it's a dystopian sort of what would happen if we still had Donald Trump. You know what I mean? Like how polluted this planet would be, our country would be, how polluted, how it could lead to various disease, let's just say, I don't know, a neglect of a, epidemic, a pandemic, just neglecting that. And instead of it being COVID affecting seniors, which basically is what we lived through with almost 600,000 dead, what if it actually affected women and their fertility rate, let's just say? And, the uber fundamentalists in this country decided, that we needed to forcibly impregnate people so that our culture could continue. That's what Handmaid's Tale is about. And I'm watching this, and I tell you, after the last episode of the new season, you want to know what? I mean, I don't know what to say because I don't want to spoil it if you haven't seen it. But let's just say everything I ever fought for to my own demise, basically, that caused my own demise, like going after, defense contractors and torture, I was right. That's all I want to say. But I'm just like watching them try to rewrite reality on these, I don't even want to call them news networks. They're BS. I mean, Jim Acosta, actually called out Fox News this weekend in such a blunt way. It was great.
Take, for example, the uproar over this New York Post story that claimed that copies of a children's book written by Vice President Kamala Harris were being given to migrant kids in their welcome kits. That tale from the border didn't just border on BS. This was USDA grade A bullshit. And the reporter who wrote the story resigned, claiming she was forced to make it up. But the damage was done, pumped out over the airwaves at the bullshit factory, also known as Fox News.
I mean, this is how we well, I'm just saying, to say it out loud like that is necessary at this point because people are actually imbibing, they are ingesting fake stuff, thinking it's real news or real current events. It isn't. There was no election fraud. Oh, well, I'll say if you're looking for there was no election fraud. If you're looking for voter fraud, I think I found it.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844.
561-270-3844.
70% of Republicans do not believe that Joe Biden had enough votes to win the presidency, that he didn't legitimately win the election, essentially. I mean, God. It's really quite remarkable when you think, when you see that number. As you mentioned, in Arizona right now, votes have been checked and checked and checked again. This so-called audit, which has been described as farcical, essentially, even by Republican election officials in that state, is still giving some Trump supporters, online and offline, the false sense of hope that the election could still be overturned. I met one this week in Texas. Have a listen. Were you disappointed when Trump lost the election?
I was disappointed in the lack of truth and the election fraud that took place within it. And it's coming out right now in Arizona, and it's going to be a domino effect to the truth that's moving forward. What happens after that, I don't know, but I know that the truth is there's only so many voters that are in one county that can vote, and the numbers far exceed that. It's common sense mathematics.
But there's no way now that the 2020 election result could change, right?
I'm not making that call. It's not my call. But
what?
We'll see what the institution decides once the truth comes out.
And Jim, look, this is silly stuff, frankly. I mean, but it can't be ignored, unfortunately. These are the exact same conspiracy theories that helped fuel the January 6th insurrection.
So that is the problem. That is the problem. People are drinking poison, and they think that's their right to drink poison. Well, if it only damaged you, I would agree. You have a right to drink poison. However, this disinformation, this propaganda machine, it's just like Joseph Goebbels. The effect on our democracy is violence. That's what it causes. It causes violence. Disinformation, misinformation causes violence. And it damages our ability to self-govern. And anything that does that must be characterized as bullcrap and propaganda and dangerous. Because, you know, this freedom thing, oh, I'm free to watch whatever I want. They are not, we obviously have a problem with networks that cater to conspiracy theorists and endeavor and toil in propaganda, in disinformation and misinformation, and it's literally damaging the ability for Americans to figure out how to self-govern. And that is why it's so poisonous to the society. If it was just poison to your vein, I would say go for it. You have a right to do it. But like I said, your rights begin and end where your nose begins and ends. And these people that sit on platforms that reach, you know, millions of households, they have a duty to tell the truth. Otherwise, it's dangerous propaganda. So, like I said, there was no election fraud. Now, if you're looking for voter fraud, we may have found it. Here we have a 70-year-old man from Pennsylvania pleading guilty to casting an illegal ballot for Donald Trump during the 2020 election. Yes, his name is Bruce Bartman. Bruce, everybody. Bruce Bartman of Delaware County, Pennsylvania, admitted and pled guilty to casting an illegal vote in the name of his dead mother and told a court on Friday that it was a stupid mistake. Here's his quote to the court. Quote, "I listened to too much propaganda and made a stupid mistake." You see, that's drinking poison and doing damage to your own damn self. And with regard to voter fraud, that's drinking poison and doing damage to yourself. Election fraud, on the other hand, and insinuating that there is when there isn't, is damaging to democracy. That's what I'm saying. Words matter. He pled guilty to 2 felony counts of perjury and 1 count of unlawful voting after he got caught, because the system is designed to flag and catch voter fraud, and it worked. It totally freaking worked. The state's voting system flagged him because he registered a dead woman, Elizabeth Bartman, his dead mother. And the system noted that she had been dead for several years, and he decided to sign a letter asserting she was still alive. He got caught. The system worked. He was flagged. He was caught. And he voted on an absentee ballot. So I guess the whole system is designed to catch people who drink poison and hurt themselves. But our system is not designed to hold accountable these news networks that propagandize large swaths of Americans and insist that there was election fraud, which there was not. Now, I will tell you, he's only one of 3 people that were, caught. The system in Pennsylvania actually worked, and it caught 2 others. Ralph, I don't even want to read their whole name, but Ralph, who lives in Chester County, Pennsylvania, and Richard of Luzerne County. They've all been caught, flagged, and they have cases pending. You know, it's a very low return, high penalty crime, you see. So he's been sentenced, the man that I just named, he's been sentenced to 5 years. Now, the court decided not to put him in jail for this. Instead, they gave him 5 years of probation. They stripped him of his right to vote in an election for 4 years. He has surrendered his right to vote. And they made him ineligible to serve on jury duty. So that is what happened with with voter fraud. Election fraud, on the other hand, did not happen. But here is what happens when people think it did, because they're watching Goebbels-style propaganda propaganda networks, okay? All of a sudden, we're going to have poll watchers, and this is the scariest part of the laws that changed. You know, the laws that changed in Arizona, the laws that changed in Florida, the laws that changed in Georgia, etc., right? The 43 states that are mulling over, how to use the big lie to the advantage of a Republican Party that literally is losing participation and participants, like exponentially. Instead of looking at themselves and seeing what voters want from them, or what voters, are disappointed in them for not bringing to the fore, for not legislating for them, they are endeavoring in voter suppression. Okay, they are going back to Jim Crow voter suppression style tactics, because that's who they are. It's all they know. They're one-trick ponies, right? Racism works for them. That's the problem with propaganda. They're now taking away people's ability to vote by mail or absentee. And they're forcing people back to the polling places. Well, I have no problem with in-person voting. But they're also deploying these poll watchers and giving them power. Yeah. They're giving partisan poll watchers, candidates poll watchers, awesome power to videotape and intimidate in-person voters. This next election is going to be a doozy here in Florida and other places because of the propaganda.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
This bizarre episode going on in your home state 6 months after the election, Republicans in Arizona doing something, it's just downright bizarre. They brought in a guy who's an election liar to lead an audit of ballots from Maricopa County. Even though the election board there is led by Republicans, they're using ultraviolet light and other methods to examine ballots, looking for evidence of voter fraud. Obviously the same lie that fueled the January 6th attack on the Capitol.
Yeah.
What do you make of all this? Is the Arizona Republican Party undermining democracy?
Oh, listen, the whole thing is ludicrous. Quite frankly, it's ludicrous. And this also comes from a state party in Arizona that refused to be audited themselves on votes that were cast within their own party communications. So, the election is over. Biden won.
Hello.
I know many of them don't like the outcome, but, elections have consequences.
This is what it causes, the propaganda does. That's why people use it. It works. It literally works. It plays to people's fear. It plays to their anxiety. It also plays to their frustration and, their inability to accept loss. Okay? And that's why the propaganda even exists, and it's dangerous, and it always leads to violence. And that's what is going on in Arizona, and everybody is trying to explain this to you. You have Cindy McCain there explaining this to you. Liz Cheney, who I agree with on nothing, absolutely nothing. Nothing at all, from the issue of torture to the issue of war itself, okay? All the and everything in between. She's trying to tell you that this election fraud thing is a gigantic, dangerous lie, an oozy, pussy, gravy sore of a lie that is impeding our ability to self-govern. It is literally damaging our democracy. It is casting an enormous amount of shame and doubt on the United States of America. And here we have an Arizona Republican who was at the January 6th insurrection, who is counting the ballots. You have the guy who owns the company that has somewhere between 2 and 10 employees hired by the state of Arizona to go hole up in a coliseum. And he's a guy who had to delete his Twitter account because he was screaming on Twitter that there was election fraud and he's going to find it. And they literally hired him to do it. You know how dangerous this is? I mean, you talk about playing with fire and burning the place down. Oh, my God. I can't even explain to you how did you see what happened to Mitt Romney? Now, remember, Mitt Romney voted to impeach Donald Trump. In the Senate, he voted to remove Donald Trump for inciting the insurrection with his big lie. So Mitt Romney went to the state GOP convention in Arizona, in Utah, this weekend, and they called him a traitor. They called him a communist. Oh my God, this is insane.
Thank you.
This is what propaganda causes. This is a room full of Republicans with Republican Mitt Romney.
President Biden's first 100 days. Now, you know me as a person who says what he thinks, and I don't hide the fact that I wasn't a fan of our last president's character issues. And I'm also no fan. Aren't you embarrassed?
Aren't you embarrassed?
And I'm also no fan of the president's... Yeah, sure.
My friends, this is the moment I was talking about. Please, thank you, show respect.
What kind of a freaking party is this? Where Mitt Romney, who never saw a tax he would raise on a rich person ever, Mitt Romney, the former governor. I mean, his father was a governor. He was the presidential GOP presidential nominee in 2012, and the GOP is booing Mitt Romney from. Oh my God! I'm telling you, this is dangerous. You just don't. I mean, yes, it was awkward. But, you know, he does look awkward in almost every situation for a very good-looking man, and he is. He is. He's handsome. He always looks awkward. He never looks comfortable, but, I mean, well, let's just put it this way. If it's any consolation to you, Mitt, I really believe with my whole heart that getting booed big time at the Utah Republican Convention, well, if it's any consolation, they would boo you at the Democratic convention as well. We would boo you too. So there's equality. I mean, I don't know. I can't bring myself to praise Mitt Romney. I'm sorry, I just can't. Except that he voted clearly that the president of the United States had incited an insurrection and was actually, criminally or he was liable under the law of the United States and needed to be removed as president of the United States, even if he only had like 4 minutes to serve. And that's why he got booed. And he's asking these people, aren't you embarrassed? Mitt, wake up. Your party stopped being embarrassed the minute it put on the red hat. Aren't you embarrassed? No, of course they're not embarrassed. They're racists. And you encouraged it by actually telling them corporations are people, my friend. I mean, this is the guy that's getting booed by the Republicans. Corporations are people, my friend, is getting booed at a GOP convention in freaking Utah, no less. Oh my God. Do you understand how now I could, if I were an opportunist and I didn't care about this country, if I didn't care about democracy with a small d, if I didn't care about the damage that propaganda does to a population and the ability for democracy and self-governance to continue, if I didn't care about that, I would be cheering the fact that the GOP is literally being shredded, that it's being torn to pieces, and that there will be nothing left of it if they keep on going this way. But I'm not cheering it. No, I'm not, because it's damaging. It's dangerous. We need a party that we disagree with in order to have a debate. And debating is where the real, solutions to real problems comes from. We can't even have a debate in this country about anything, about how to move forward, about nothing. We can't have a debate at all because it all ends with election fraud. It all ends. We didn't have any. It did not happen. And you got people living in an alternative universe. I mean, this is just, it's impossible to have a democracy in a situation like this. That's why I take no joy in watching the Republican Party literally, self-emulate. They set themselves on fire and they're burning. And you're supposed to cheer that on, like when your enemy is, destroying itself. I can't do it. I cannot find joy in that. And I don't have one ability to praise Mitt Romney, because Mitt Romney is the reason that the moneyed elite have had their way in this country for far too long at the expense of working people. So I can't praise him. But I can't praise the destruction of democracy by praising the destruction of the Republican Party. I just can't. I don't see how that works. I don't see how that produces anything, valuable to democracy itself. James in West Virginia.
Hello, Randy. When people go into service or take a job in the government, they swear in on the Bible that they will preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. Well, it's my opinion that Trump didn't do that, or they didn't do that. He is a traitor, and the Republicans that backed him up, they are all traitors. The people who broke into our Capitol, they are traitors, and the thing of it is, they don't realize they're traitors. I don't know when people forgot what a traitor really is. They should go to jail. They should be stripped of any kind of security clearance that they've got for life. They should never be able to hold office. What do you think, Randy?
Well, I think that, Donald Trump, they made an attempt at holding him accountable, and Mitt Romney was one of those that said, yes, he did this, and he incited violence against, our government, and, he needs to be held accountable. Unfortunately, no one else agreed with him, and now they're booing him.
Well, Randy, what about...
And calling him a traitor. Can you see how damaging the situation is? Can you see how disorienting it is that 70% of that party think Mitt Romney is a communist, think Mitt Romney is the traitor, when obviously Donald Trump is the traitor.
Mary had a little man.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
One radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me. Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
In Scranton, Pennsylvania, actions speak louder than words. It's the hometown of a president who's not focused on his image. He's focused on doing his job, with plans to help all Americans no matter who they voted for, and results to show already. Deploying over 200 million vaccines across America, getting checks to over 160 million working families, tackling COVID and bringing our economy back from the brink. Ideas driven by common sense, not partisanship. And he's just getting started with a new plan to create millions of good jobs, putting Americans to work, repairing roads, bridges, and highways, upgrading our power lines, and building a clean energy future with American-made supplies. You won't hear him yelling or sending angry tweets, because for Joe Biden, actions speak louder.
That's a good one. I like that commercial. I think that's a good one because that is really where we are. Okay, we were watching people die. The world was watching us the way we're watching India right now with stunned heartbreak. Like, what in the world is going on in America? So now we're looking at India going, what in the world is going on in India? Right? And it's just, that's what bad leadership looks like. India's got a guy in charge there, Modi, who is also a nationalist populist. Seriously. And it doesn't work. It doesn't work because all he keeps telling everybody there is we don't have to lift a finger. We're just the best ever. And, we're the world's largest manufacturer of vaccines. And so it will never hit us and we don't need to do anything. And calling them all out to his, election rallies and telling them to go ahead with their, religious ceremonies where 2-3 million people show up. 2-3 million people. I mean, you're talking about a huge population. And now we're watching them the way that they were watching us. And this is what bad leadership actually produces. This is what lies produce. This is what nationalist populism produces. That's a fancy term for, a fascist belief that, you're the best race that ever inhabited the planet and that your democracy is unbreakable because just by the virtue of you being the world's largest democracy, which is what India is, you don't have to work at it. You don't have to protect it. You don't have to defend it. I mean, look at the result here and then look at the result there and realize that propaganda, that nationalistic fervor, that desire to, be somehow separated from science and the planet and the universe, it makes democracy small. And it makes it beatable, and it makes it defeatable. And that is what's going on in, various democratic societies. Obviously, we see it. We see it here. We see it there. Thank God we changed presidents. Thank God we did. But I will tell you the bad news. The bad news is the United States of America will not get to herd immunity. It won't. Ever. Nope. And some people are willing to live with it, and other people are just, pissed off. But that is really the true fact of where we are. COVID will become a manageable threat, I imagine, I hope, here in the United States. But it will continue to circulate here in the United States for years and years and years to come. And yes, it will still cause hospitalizations and it will still cause death. But instead of eradicating it, which we could have done, it will continue. And yes, you'll see hospitalizations and you'll see death, but in smaller numbers. Only because very brave people were willing to stick that thing in their arm. And listen, I don't want to even talk about how I felt about it. I don't even want to talk about it because I do not want one single human being on this particular little blue marble planet of ours to ever be able to say that Randi Rhodes was the reason why they didn't get the vaccine. And that's why I don't talk about how I really felt about it but I did get it. I got both of them. Am I happy about it? I don't know. I'll let you know when there's commercials on TV. Brent knows where I'm
Did
going.
you grow an extra tail while getting the Johnson & Johnson vaccine?
Right. Exactly.
Call whatever and sue somebody. Yep. I was just discussing this with a friend of mine.
Were you? Okay. So then it's out there, right? It's in people's minds and it's in their conversation. So you know what? I think most people that wanted to get vaccinated got vaccinated, and the rest of them that don't want to get vaccinated will never get vaccinated. And yes, the highest risk will still be, obviously, COVID is a disease that, affects people of a certain age, a certain health status, a certain exposure level, right? We know that. And so I got vaccinated to protect my mother. Okay, I got vaccinated to protect Howard because Howard's older and he has a bad immune system. Okay, so I actually did it for some other people, for others. I didn't do it for me. If it were up to me, I probably would say no. If it were just about me, I probably would have passed. I'll just tell you this. I'm one of those people, my entire life, I never got a flu shot. Okay? I just never did. And I never got the flu. And that's just the way I was. It's just the way I was. It's a choice I made for myself. And if COVID didn't affect certain people of a certain age with certain health status and certain, deficits, and I didn't love those people, which I do with all my being, I wouldn't have gotten that vaccine either. I would not have gotten it. But I did it because it was the right thing to do for the people I love. I wasn't worried about me dying, okay? But now, because there are so many selfish people or people that just don't see that because they may get it and they may never have any symptoms, but they could carry it around with them, and that they could be in a supermarket or they could be in an indoor, restaurant or whatever, right? Or a bowling alley with an older person who didn't get the vaccine, that person could die. And they just don't care. They just don't care. The virus will not go away. It just won't. Vaccinations are the key to transforming this virus into something that doesn't exist. But it's not going to happen here, and it's not going to happen in this world. It just isn't. It is not. And there's various reasons. The reason for the United States, never getting to herd immunity is because of selfish Americans. But the reason that the globe will not get to herd immunity is because of inequality. It's because poorer countries couldn't purchase the vaccines for their population because they were competing with richer countries like the United States. India is one of the richest countries, truly. China too. So it has nothing to do, it just has to do with the fact that, they could not compete with the rich countries to get the vaccines for their people. And so there's going to be COVID, in this world for probably another, 2-3 years. The rest of the poorer countries in the world who have about, listen, don't think of just the dirt poor countries. Don't even think of that. The middle of the road countries, middle income countries, they have middle income countries and poor countries have about 50% of the world's population. You understand that, right? Yeah, and they can't vaccinate their entire populations because they don't have access to the vaccine. Now, you do have access to the vaccine, and you're choosing not to get it. So you're also contributing to, the prevalence or the continuation of COVID in the world. But now it's up to you.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
I'm not sure that we are going to reach herd immunity. I mean, the other scenario here is that we get a decline in the number of infections because of increasing vaccinations over the summer. That's really good. But I also fear that people are going to get complacent. They're going to see that things are returning to normal. They can go about doing things that they can, that they were able to before, regardless of whether they were vaccinated. And what I really worry about is that those people who are already on the fence don't get vaccinated. We don't reach herd immunity come the fall. And then with the winter, because coronaviruses are winter respiratory viruses, we have a big resurgence. Maybe we have variants coming in from other countries, and we could start this whole process all over again and have another huge pandemic come the winter. And so that's why getting to herd immunity now, as much as possible, is really important. And because we don't have the incentives in place, exactly as you said, I don't know that we'll get there.
We're not going to get there. Okay? We're just not. I could tell you this. 1 in 4 Americans say that they do not plan to take the COVID-19 vaccine. And about half of Republicans under 50 say they're a definite no. They're not doing it. So we even have a partisan gap in, protecting each other. It's just so bizarre. See, this is why, the don't tread on me people just, they're so full of crap, okay? They really are. They're out there saying, well, I'm free to watch whatever I want, and I'm free to do this, and I'm free to watch fake news if I want to watch fake. Yes, you can take the poison. You can do it. You can actually drink poison in this country. You're free to do it. What you're not free to do is allow a corporation to inject it into you, right? And that is what these, fake news models, are doing on these, cable platforms. That is what is poisoning the society, not the COVID-19 vaccine. It's not poisoning the society. It's literally inoculating the society against a pathogen that is real. Okay, but 1 in 4 Americans are so tainted with disinformation and misinformation and selfishness and lack of care for the communities in which they bowl, in which they go to work, in which they buy gas and milk and, raise their kids. They just don't care. So what we're seeing now is the average number of daily shots declining day after day after day. They've declined by 20% in the last 2 weeks. And where is that happening? That is happening in states with larger Trump vote shares. Now, it's bizarre because Donald Trump himself got a secret COVID vaccine. Why he didn't do it in public, I guess he knew that his supporters were anti-vaxxers. But I will say it's not just anti-vaxxers. It's not just people who are against all vaccines. It's people who are specifically against this one. And the reason that they are against this one, or not, it's not for them, is this. And this is the crazy part. I would share this reason with you. Honestly, I would. Okay, I don't even want to say it, but this is what I've been calling it in private, okay? A parking lot vaccine. This is what I've been calling it. Now, yes, I got vaxxed, and I made Brett get vaxxed. His whole family, got on his case and said, you have to get vaxxed, right? Because we care about each other. What?
Oh, I'm not. Yeah, no. There's no judgment. You're right. Continue. We do care about each other.
Yes, but I honestly did not want it. I didn't want it. I was scared of it because it's an emergency use authorization. It's brand new. I wanted other people to go before me, to tell you the truth. I thought, I'll take an antibody test. I'll see if I have any antibody. I'll take COVID tests repeatedly. I will, I am one of those people that is afraid that when I'm 80 and retired and I'm sitting home watching, reruns of The Handmaid's Tale, I will actually see commercials that say, did you grow a tail from the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, or did you somehow lose your sense of taste and suffer from extreme brain fog after your Moderna vaccine? Then you may have a case. Call Ivy, Lytle, Fronrath, and, Schmidt. I'm not sure that's not going to be my future. I'm not sure. And I understand why groups of people have questions about whether or not they should go through this, right? I mean, I don't, Brett was sick for what, 24 hours?
It was a little over 24 hours. It was really one night of chills, a little bit of cold sweats, and a little bit of headache, a little tiredness the next day, and then literally the third day, it's like it never happened.
3 days now, you're telling me?
Well, I mean, it was a little bit of hangover on the second day, but when I woke up on that Sunday, I was 100%.
Okay, so now you're not old and you're not vulnerable, okay? So why did you actually choose to get it? And of all the ones, you chose the Johnson & Johnson after the news about the blood clots came.
Well, two reasons. The minuscule amount of influence that I may be able to have over anybody listening. I want them to do it as well. And much more importantly, I want to be around my loved ones. I want to set plans to visit my family, be around my sister's kids, go visit my father, confidently that I'm not going to infect him, and jeopardize his life.
Right. Yeah, I did it for that reason too. I mean, exactly that reason. But I honestly, I mean, I get why people don't want this vaccine. I just don't understand. Well, I guess I do understand. I guess I do. I guess I understand it from both sides, that they distrust. I don't distrust public health authorities. That's not the thing. I
Can I say this? I made a funny little joke when I got poked about, hey, am I going to feel the microchip going in and out of my arm? And the woman, she, instead of like just giving me the half-hearted whatever laugh, no, she immediately began to address it because she had been asked seriously that question so many times that she began to answer the question. I said, no, I don't really believe that. You can stop. But yeah, she had been asked so many times.
Yeah, I mean, I joked about it. I actually made a joke, and I said I could feel the microchip going in. You know why? Because the vaccine hurts. It hurts. It really does. It hurts. It's not like the flu vaccine. If you ever got that, it feels like like a bee sting, and then you're done, right? It doesn't. But if you ever got I got the shingles one because my mom has it, and it's nasty. So that's the one that I decided I was going to treat myself to before COVID. And I will tell you, that's also a two vaccine process, and it hurts, but not when you get it. It hurts like the next day. You get that soreness in your. But for some reason, the COVID vaccine, when I got it, it hurt like right then and there. And so I joked that it was the microchip going in, and I swear to God, they don't think it's funny. They don't think it's funny. The administrators, like my pharmacist, he didn't think it was funny because he says people are actually saying that they're not going to get it because of the so of course that's the first thing I wanted to joke about, because that's just me and my dark humor. But honestly, we're not going to get to herd immunity. That's just a fact. We're just not, because 1 in 4 are refusing to do it.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
We keep hearing about this term herd immunity and that we are pretty far away from it. And it may be that we don't get to it. The truth is that the scientists don't know, right? I mean, the numbers always range between 80 and 85%, or the WHO's numbers are lower. Israel looks like it hit something pretty good with just about 60% vaccination rate. So we're looking at a big range here. And so instead, we just have to look at, we're in the stage of risk minimization. We should push the envelope at this stage. We need to let people get out. We need to let the economy run. We need to promote vaccinations as is being done and take seriously vaccine hesitancy. Look at access issues that are related to vaccine hesitancy. I'm a big fan of maybe closing some of these big mass vaccination sites and, doing the pop-up thing and showing up at bars or at sports stadiums, which is happening now, and sort of envision a world in which we're just reducing the risk. Every shot does it, but there's no finish line that we have to wait for. And so that's me in English, because I think it was getting very confusing for people and frustrating because we seem to be waiting for something that might not happen for a while to get our population vaccinated.
It's not going to happen. It's just, it's not going to happen. It can't happen. And I'll tell you why it can't happen. It can't happen not just because 1 in 4 Americans are refusing to get this vaccine, and that is the case, but it's also not going to happen because poorer countries than the United States, which is the richest nation on the freaking planet, okay? That is why people that live in middle income, countries, that's why they want to come here, not because they're dirt poor. Americans have this crazy idea that the rest of the world wants to come here because they're so poor. No, that would be the case in Honduras. That would be the case in Guatemala. That would be the case in Salvador, where the poverty actually leads to violence and corruption in the government, etc. But it is not the case throughout the world. You have countries, that are, lower to middle income countries. And those lower and middle income countries have about 40% of the world's population in them. And then the poorest countries have another 10% of the population, about 16% of the world's population live in very poor countries. 16%, that's it, right? And then 40% of the world lives in middle income countries. So that's 56% of the world. And between the lower income, the very low, poor, like Guinea, Papua New Guinea, you always read about, oh, it's the world's poorest country. Yeah. Countries like that, they literally only have 0.4% of their population vaccinated. 0.4%. Why? Because the rich countries like India actually has the Indian Serum Institute, which manufactures most of the world's vaccines. Yeah, they have export restrictions on the vaccines so that until their population is vaccinated, they don't export them to other countries, see? And so you have these lower and middle income countries that have about 40% of the world's population. Only 19% of their populations have been vaccinated. So one way to look at it, if you're hesitant, let's just say, is to say that those countries that contain about 56% of the world's population would love to get the vaccine, and they can't. Here, you can get the vaccine, but you won't. And that is the situation that we find ourselves in the United States. And that's just the truth. That's just the truth. 1 in 4 Americans are a no. Now, I will say, I don't get to listen to other podcasts, but I am aware of them, obviously. And there's that guy, Joe Rogan. And the reason why I'm aware of Joe Rogan is only because Scotty, who, worked here before his wife decided to, become a handmaid and just squeeze him out and make him the babysitter, because that's kind of what happened there. So Scotty, has to stay home with the kids now. But Scotty was a big fan of Joe Rogan when Joe Rogan was, involved in sports, right? I don't even know what was wrestling or what.
MMA. He's pretty much the foremost
mixed martial arts.
MMA voice in America right now. Yeah.
But he was just an announcer. He wasn't a fighter
for years. Actually, yes. He would he was the in-ring interview guy, and then he would do the play-by-play, hit-by-hit.
So he's a play-by-play announcer.
Yeah, MMA play-by-play announcer, PA. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm aware of him because of that, and because of Scotty making me aware of it. And then he got a deal. Now I watch, I watch, media and deals, right? And somebody paid him $100 million. $100 million for his podcast. That's got to be like funny money because honestly, nobody makes that much income. Nobody generates that much revenue from anything. It's just, it's crazy. But anyway, okay. So I'm aware of him. Now, I saw an article about him and he had said several days ago, and he's very popular. I mean, he's mega popular. He's, we were at that level for a while, when we had distribution the way we had. I don't pretend. I have no fantasies. But anyway, he told, and he's got a young audience. He told his audience this. He said, quote, "I think you should get vaccinated if you're vulnerable. But if you're 21 years old and you say to me, should I get vaccinated? I'll go no. I'll go no." A guy who talks like that gets $100 million. Okay, whatever. God love America. So he reaped the whirlwind with that. I mean, everybody got on his case to the point where he actually said the only thing he should say, and this is why I kind of like him now. He said, wait, why are you listening to me? I'm an effing moron. And I really respected the fact that he is self-aware. And he was right. Why are you listening to him? He is an effing moron when it comes to vaccines. And, maybe I'm a little bit better educated than he is about the vaccines specifically, but not much more. Honestly, not much more. I'm no biologist, and I'm not a doctor. And I'm telling you right now that I did not want this vaccine. And I even said this once on the air. I said, I'm not and I know it's not a live virus, but I was joking, when I said, I'm not putting a live virus in my arm with this man as president when the yam was president. I wasn't doing it. Well, I actually didn't change my opinion much, even though we changed presidents, until I saw, I guess, deaths per day Cases per day went up to what? 300,000, just like India is now here in the United States. 300,000 a day. And we were losing people like tens of thousands. And I was like, oh my God, we got up to 5,000 deaths a day, something crazy like that. And I was like, okay, I got to do my part. I got to, whatever they're telling me, I'll just do it. Because I'm not a doctor and I don't know, but I'll just do it. And as soon as I was allowed, I went and got it. Did I get it without incident? Well, I don't know. The jury's out on that. Because I didn't get the typical, which, sleeping for 24 hours, very fatigued, cold sweats, maybe a little fever. I didn't get that. But ever since, I have been experiencing some stuff, but I don't know.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
More than 50,000 fans descended on Churchill Downs, one of the largest crowds seen in the U.S. since the start of the pandemic. Coast to coast, signs of reopening. In New York City this morning, it's back to work in the office for 80,000 city workers.
We've got to act like it. We've got to own the moment and get out there and bring the city back.
In Chicago, the iconic Navy Pier celebrating being back in business. And for many in California, a weekend of normalcy as Disneyland reopened.
Being one of the first people back in on the first day, I'm literally going to cry.
It comes as daily infections are declining in more than half the country. More than 100 million Americans are fully vaccinated, and another 140 million have received their first dose. But with some still hesitant, officials are urging anyone with concerns to talk to a doctor or someone they know who's already gotten their vaccine. The Milwaukee Bucks stepping up efforts over the weekend, offering shots to eligible fans attending Sunday's game. Despite the number of vaccinations going up, cases are still dangerously high. One of the worst outbreaks is in Oregon, where 15 counties are now considered at extreme risk for the virus. The other concern is a double mutant variant from COVID-ravaged India, now being reported in places like Nevada and Michigan. While the vaccines have so far been successful fighting variants, there are still rare examples of fully vaccinated people contracting the virus, including 4 people in Dallas County who later died, though all had serious underlying health conditions.
That tells me nothing. All right. Ginger in California.
Well, hey, Randi. Love you more. Long time.
Love always.
I actually called to thank Brett for getting his COVID vaccine because I was one of the people in the chat room bullying him last week.
Oh, you were?
When you were talking. Yes, I was one of his main bullies. It's me. Sorry.
He told me, he actually told me in my ear, because he could talk to me without you hearing him. And he said, I'm getting beat up pretty bad in the chat room, so I had to back off.
Sorry, it was me. I was bullying him. I was leading the bully parade. But I'm a vaccine pusher. Sorry, I was very hesitant with vaccine as well.
Yeah, why? What made you hesitant?
The rushed approval.
Right. Now, I think if we are very, very honest with people, maybe some of them will say, that's honestly how I feel, but they did it, I'll do it too. But if we lie about it and pretend that they're like Brett, to pretend that Brett didn't have side effects would be a lie. He did. And that the first night after his vaccine, he was, I don't know why he doesn't want to tell you this, but he was in the shower, literally for 2 hours with the water running because he didn't know which end to put where. And he was laying in the bed and he was freezing, but he was hot. And he thought, but if I take a layer off, then I'm going to freeze. But
he had what I call express COVID. My husband had COVID last year. I've had 4 family members that have had the COVID, and I got express COVID when I got the second Moderna shot. So I had 36 hours of hell. But I have no hesitancy in doing the vaccine. My son got a mild version of express COVID on his second Moderna. My daughter is due to get her second Moderna. They're both active duty Army. The Army, I will tell you, has been very, very slow.
Oh my God!
Rolling out the vaccine.
And
It is bad.
Let me tell you something, Ginger. I don't know. Have you ever served, or do you know much about it?
Yeah. I'm Air Force. I was in maintenance. I've talked to you over the years.
Okay. So you're
I was an aircraft mechanic.
Okay, so you're exactly my counterpart. All right. So remember when we were in there, and they would line us.
The guns?
No, not the guns. But remember when the air guns, yes. Remember we were in the military, okay, at a time, I don't even know what's changed, but you didn't get to say no. You just got lined up. Your hands were like this. Both hands were open like this. They put a alcohol cotton ball soaked in alcohol in your hands, both of them, and you'd move down the line. They'd take the cotton ball. They'd rub it on, both sides of you, and bam, bam, on both sides as you were. Now all of a sudden you get to say no to COVID vaccines. When did that happen?
I don't know. My daughter, she's in Germany, and Germany's still locked down. She's been there. She got there just before the beginning of COVID hit here in the U.S. That December she went over. That December, January, and she's not been able to travel the whole time she's been in Germany. Nearly almost going on 2 years now. Because she's been locked down.
I'm asking you a different question. I'm not asking about her situation.
Oh yeah, about I don't know why they can say no, because we couldn't say no. She doesn't know.
Ginger,
I will ask her,
Thank
but
you.
she doesn't know. My son is active duty as well. He begged for the shot. Both of my kids have had to beg to get vaccinated. That's how bad it is.
No, I'm asking.
They are not rolling this out.
I'm asking a different question. I want you to ask them because, GI stands for government issue. Okay? That's what GI means. For those of you who support the GIs, you support your church. You have no idea. We surrender our civil rights over to the state. We are the handmaids, okay, Ginger and I.
Yes.
We are the handmaids.
Yes.
And we did
our bit.
You belong to the state, okay? And so you don't get to say no to an anthrax vaccine or to a flu vaccine or to nothing. You get whatever they decide that they're going to put in you. You take it. You have no ability to say no.
But they say no now. They do.
So why?
To the point where we have Americans going over that are actually part of AFRICOM. They're going to Kenya. I'm giving you a little more information than I should. They are over there for quarantining, and she's one of the people that runs the quarantine in Germany at this particular place that she's at. And she's got Americans refusing to mask, refusing to quarantine. One of them is a retired active duty. They're Air Force, believe it or not. And he actually was so mad. He's with the Guard now, and he's lieutenant colonel. Wrote a memorandum declaring that he, was going to end the quarantine because he said so. And they're like laughing at his guy. But this is what we've created in this country. They are refusing to abide by rules and guidelines. I don't know where this came from. This was not the Air Force I served in.
No, it's not the one I served in either. And that's what I want to know. I want to know whether or not it's okay now for them to turn down an anthrax vaccine or a flu vaccine or a typhoid vaccine or a tetanus shot. I want to know, can they say no to that?
I believe they can't.
So
for some reason,
so that's what I want you to
COVID.
No,
they're allowed to say no to COVID. I don't know why.
Okay. Thanks. Yeah, that's as far as we're going to get. I'm asking a different question. I don't want to know the internal workings of, Landstuhl Air Force Base, okay? I don't. I want to know if they can say no to a tetanus shot, okay? I want to know, right? Because if they can't say no because they're GI, they're government issue, and they belong to the state, which is what it is to be in a uniform, okay? Then how is it possible that they can say no to a COVID-19 shot? I need an answer for. Lloyd in Michigan.
Hi, Randy. I want to thank you for bringing up the fact of how dangerous this is with not enough people getting vaccinated and pretending everything's good at this point and everything's starting to open up, which is exactly sort of where India went without the vaccination. They had good numbers. Then they opened the whole place up, had religious festivals, and the whole country threw itself under the bus.
And election rallies.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it was.
We could do the same thing.
Well, let's not forget that when Trump was out there campaigning, those rallies of his were super spreaders, and that's how we got where we got. And the same damn thing happened in India with their election rallies, but their population is, 3 times what ours is. And so if you imagine that, you had 10 or 20,000 people showing up at a Trump rally, right? Imagine that in India, they would have, 50,000, 60,000 crammed in. So that's how they got where they got. But, listen, the thing about vaccinations now, 1 in 4, especially young people, aren't getting the shot. It's not going to happen. It's just not. So everybody has to get their mind wrapped around the fact that COVID, while it could be defeated, is not going to be.
If we were smart, we'd get vaccinated, and then we'd shut down for 5 weeks and just drop the bottom out of this virus, and that would get us through it. If we had done this a year ago in March, we wouldn't even be here today.
Well, we didn't have the vaccine in March, so that wasn't even an option. But now that it is an option, people still don't want it. Okay, they still don't. So I am telling everybody that as long as you have 1 in 4 Americans refusing to get vaccinated, which is really what we have, 1 in 4 Americans are a no. The number of vaccines going into arms is declining about 20%, especially in red states, week over week. We are going to have COVID with us, and next flu season, which is going to become COVID season, you're going to see hospitalizations and you're going to see deaths, but hopefully in smaller numbers. It's the best we could do.
Mary had a little man. The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America. From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me. Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
2 months from today, families across the country are going to celebrate the 4th of July. Our goal by July 4th is to have 70% of adult Americans with at least 1 shot and 160 million Americans fully vaccinated. That means giving close to 100 million shots, some first shots, others second shots, over the next 60 days. Of course, Americans can still get shots after July 4th. But no one should wait, and let's try to hit that 70% mark, at least with 1 shot before that day.
So that's what your current president is talking to you about today. He's talking about vaccinations. He's talking about 70% of all Americans with at least 1 shot on board. He's talking about how, to make it more available. He's talking about partnering with sports teams. He's talking about, and the former guy is wedding crashing at his Southern Country Club before he leaves to go to his Northern Country Club. And he's talking about overturning an election. I swear to God. I was going to play this cold out of the intro, but you would think this was an old clip and that the show was not brand new today, which it is. It's May 4th. And if I just played this cold, you would say, oh, no, it's not a rerun. This is what the former guy, this is what the old yam is doing with his time. He's literally, I don't know, this is either a scene from the Wedding Crashers episode, like 9, because, how in the hell are they going to get to be 75 years old unless it's the 9th sequel, right? But either that or it's an audition for Citizen Kane because he's rambling like a crazy SOB. I mean, this is really sick.
Let's see what they find. I wouldn't be surprised if they found thousands and thousands and thousands of votes. So we're going to watch that very closely. And After that, you'll watch Pennsylvania, and you watch Georgia, and you're going to watch Michigan and Wisconsin, and you're watching New Hampshire. They found a lot of votes up in New Hampshire just now. You saw that?
What?
Because this was a rigged election. Everybody knows it, and we're going to be watching it very closely. But
oh my God!
Start off by. You just take a look. It's on closed circuit. I guess it's on all over the place because everyone's talking about yesterday front page of the New York Times. They didn't want to write it, but that's because they thought they were going to have a negative decision, and the judge gave us a positive decision.
Oh my God. The shot of the band sitting behind him, that's like the best thing. That is classic. I mean, they were just waiting to play and finish. It was priceless. They're just standing there like looking at this crazy old 74-year-old man who they know is like the owner of the premises, but they're like, doesn't this venue have a way to handle drunks who take the microphone? Don't they have a way to get rid of the drunk people? I mean, it's just like... Listen, if you're going to get married at Mar-a-Lago, maybe you should pay the little extra to keep Donald Trump from crashing your wedding and ruining it. That is unbelievable. So this is what he's doing 100 days after the election. This is what this man is doing. He's standing on a stage talking to tens of people about the Arizona audit. I wouldn't be surprised if they found thousands and thousands of votes, and then, you saw what happened in New Hampshire. What happened in New Hampshire? Somebody tell me what happened in New Hampshire. And closed circuit TV, it's on everywhere. This is closed circuit TV that's being, it's being aired. The closed circuit TV is on One America News Network, a news network so small that you could literally crush it with your finger. Do you know what I mean? It's like so unbelievable. And then he listed off all the places, and this is the only reason why it's important, because it's going on in Arizona, this fake audit. Everybody knows it's a fake audit. Everybody has commented on how fake it is. Everybody has commented on people who were at the insurrection, screaming that the election was stolen, that they are inside the Coliseum, the Veterans Coliseum, and that they are actually touching your ballots, that they are counting your ballots. People who believe the election was stolen are inside fingering your ballots. Just saying. It's so bizarre, but what's interesting is how he is telling people that this is going to happen all over the country. They're going to find him in Pennsylvania. They're going to find him in Georgia. They're going to find him in Michigan. They're going to find him in Wisconsin, New Hampshire. You just saw New Hampshire. I didn't see anything. Thank God he stopped before he got to Massachusetts, but okay. And he's saying they found a lot of votes in New Hampshire. Just now. You've seen that. That's what he says. So apparently there were votes inside Al Capone's vault, tucked inside the Holy Grail, and shoved inside the Lost Ark of the Raiders. I don't know. Next to Jimmy Hoffa's skeleton, apparently. The problem with this is that he's so backcrap. He really is, and he has been crazy for so long that people won't be able to recognize it when he goes clinically insane, you see. And that is a problem. And by the way, you have a Republican Party that is still kissing the ring and other various body parts, which is ew. And they are going to remove Liz Cheney from her leadership position because she keeps telling you that the big lie is poison for democracy. And that's what I was trying to explain to you yesterday. You're free to drink poison. Oh, yes, you are. But you can't inject it into others. And that is what the BS factory that is OAN, the BS factory that is Newsmax. Oh, who, by the way, Newsmax even apologized for saying that the election was stolen or that votes were flipped by Dominion. They apologized because they're being sued also for $1.3 billion, and they didn't want to go through the defamation lawsuit. They didn't want to have to pay for the lawyer and the defense just to tell a jury, well, reasonable people don't believe a word we say, right? So they didn't want to have to spend the money to go into a court to say, our audience is full of idiots. Our audience is full of morons. They didn't want to, so they issued an apology yesterday to Dominion, and saying, especially to, the owner of Dominion. And I think they should apologize to Venezuela. I don't know what the hell they're talking about over there. But anyway, they issued a very lengthy written apology so that they could have the lawsuit dropped. And Dominion agreed to drop it because they apologized for pretending that the big lie isn't damaging to democracy itself. I'm just saying. So anyway, so now we're all, sitting here in a democracy that's been kicked around so hard, that is looking at, Liz Cheney, like I said, and I'll keep saying it. I know that you're supposed to be happy when your enemies are setting themselves on fire, but I cannot be happy because it is the end of, at least, it's the end of the GOP. Okay, we know that. He killed the GOP a long time ago. I said it a long, long time ago that Donald Trump and Trumpism and this racist vein of Trumpism, that is going to be a lasting gift that keeps on giving in our society. It's going to cause violence, which it has and it does, is going to kill the GOP. So that was an easy call. But now we're watching the death of democracy itself. And I cannot celebrate that. And that is why Liz Cheney is speaking up and speaking out, because this is not about tax policy. This isn't even about the unitary executive. There's nothing I agree with her on. The unitary executive, all the way to war and the need for it and torture. Just could not possibly find agreement with her, except on this one thing. And she keeps telling you the GOP is gone and democracy itself is hanging on by a thread. That would be true. And that's what's so damaging. That's what's so frightening. That's why you cannot celebrate that they're kicking Liz Cheney out of the GOP or out of the leadership position, because there is no GOP. Unless it's grand old pedophiles.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
Some good news for parents and all Americans, with vaccinations for younger people finally on the horizon. The FDA reportedly set to authorize emergency use of the Pfizer vaccine in adolescents ages 12 to 15 as early as next week. If it does, the CDC would then hold an emergency meeting and issue recommendations. Pfizer recently announced trial results showing the vaccine is highly effective for that age group, possibly even more than for adults.
Wow.
The news, first reported by the New York Times, citing federal officials familiar with the plan, a relief to many looking ahead to the new school year. Vaccinating children is also a big step toward raising immunity levels across the country. It comes as experts are now worried that vaccine hesitancy could make reaching herd immunity in the U.S. difficult, if not impossible.
Those two groups, the hardcore hesitants and the convincible. And hopefully if we can get enough of those convincibles to get vaccinated.
In Iowa, officials are asking the federal government to send fewer vaccines because of low demand.
Wow.
While in Texas, Houston Methodist hospitals will require all of their 26,000 employees to be vaccinated by June 7th or face suspension and termination, though they will allow medical and religious exemptions.
So that is the news for schools for younger kids now between 12 and 15. That's about 20 million people. That's about 6% of the population. And so now they're trying to get the 20 to 30-year-olds to get this vaccine so we can get to herd immunity. I just want you to know 85% of seniors have gotten at least one vaccine. 70% of seniors are completely vaccinated. They're looking to get 20s and 30s vaccinated because they don't think that if they got COVID, they would get too sick. And it seems like no matter what you tell them, if you tell them, well, it's for you to protect you, I don't care. If you tell them it's for you to protect your parents or your grandparents, I don't care. Seriously. So the best way, according to some studies, we actually have to do studies here in America, like how to convince people to take care of their own country. Don't ever tell me that these freaks on that side of the aisle over there care about their country or care about children or care about it's all about power for them. That's all it's about, and that's why they're willing to lie to their own constituents, lie to them about various things, including that the election was stolen, to punish Liz Cheney for saying that's poison, you're going to kill democracy, right? All that. But now we have to figure out what the best way is, because they have lied so long and so hard about so much, including hydroxychloroquine, including UV lights, including disinfectant, including, treatments, that's not available to normal people, right? So it looks like they've done some studies. There was a UCLA project. It's still going on, by the way, and it's interviewed more than 75,000 people. So I would consider that a very large sample size. And they've been doing this for the last 10 months, asking them what's the best way to get you to take a vaccine. And it turns out that telling them that it's good for them in a self-interested way, saying it will protect you, it didn't do much. Telling them it will protect you and those around you, subtle change, very little change. Telling people their doctor, pharmacist, or insurance carrier believe the vaccine to be safe and effective, no discernible effect on their intention to vaccinate themselves, though an endorsement by Dr. Fauci, as an aside, did increase the likelihood that people would get a vaccine by 6%. But here's what convinced a third of the 75,000 people to get vaxxed. Here's what worked. Pay them. Swear to God, pay them. Cash turned out to be the most popular mind changer when it came to taking the vax. And that is why you're starting to see all kinds of stuff going on from the Republican governor in West Virginia, Jim Justice, who said, he's having trouble doing it. But he said that he would give $100 savings bond if you got an inoculation, like to the kids. He would give the young kids $100 savings bond. He is having problems setting that up. So he's looking at other ways to Detroit. They're literally paying people, and this is amazing. In Detroit, they're going to pay people $50 for every person that they give a ride to get a vaccine, and they're not putting a limit on how many people you could take to get vaccinated. You will still get, it's like a bounty, $50 per person. But they say, like if you make more than $2,000 doing this, or some amount you have to check, that you have to file a W-9 because this is now your new job, right? But it turns out that the best, and that's why you saw Phil in New Jersey, the governor there. See, he's offering a shot and a beer. Right, and while it's cute, it's adorable. It makes you think, oh no, tell people to have some Pedialyte after their vaccines. You know what I mean? Tell them to stay hydrated. No, but he's saying if you have proof that you're vaccinated and you go to one of our partnered New Jersey breweries, they will give you a free beer for being vaccinated. And I don't know what kind of an effect that's going to have, but I know that paying people, and it turns out the more you pay them, the more likely they are to go get vaccinated. So some people were offered $25, and the people who, let's see, the benefits were largest for the group that was getting $100. That seems to be everybody's price, $100. It increased the willingness to get vaccinated by 34%. 34%. And I told you, Dr. Fauci saying it was safe, 6% said, oh, okay. Right? 34% changed their minds if you gave them $100. 6 points over the $25 group. Okay? If you gave somebody $25, they might. But here's the really crazy part. Unvaccinated Democrats, 48% of unvaccinated Democrats said that they would be more likely to get vaccinated if it came with $100. I wish I had that kind of... I wish I was like Oprah right now. You're getting $100 and you're getting $100 and you're... No. But what... I mean, I just... I look under your seat, everybody, I guess. No, seriously. There literally is an increase in people who are willing to get vaccinated for payment. The other big motivator that improved the likelihood of people to choose vaccination, but only by 13%, is telling them that they could stop wearing a mask and social distancing in public. Now, I think we know that being outside, you don't have to wear a mask. So tell people that.
Call in, connect.
Yeah.
To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844.
561-270-3844. I think wokeness is trying to destroy America, and we're seeing, whether it's the corporate media or big business, we're seeing woke corporations that are engaged as the political enforcers of the radical left, and are trying to silence, are trying to cancel, are trying to punish American citizens, and I think it is profoundly dangerous.
Go back to sleep then. Being awake is not a condition that the Republicans can handle. They just don't like being aware of their surroundings or the environment in which they toil. They don't like being woke. They don't like being awake. They don't like... I mean, how in the world could you take awareness and turn it into a negative unless you were Ted Cruz? I mean, it's just so bizarre. They go back to sleep, please. Thank you very much. So, look, the GOP is sad. They are angry. They are acting out. They are nasty. They are just disappointed, I tell you, disappointed. Why? Why? Because 64% of this country is very optimistic right now. 64% of this country is ready to go back to work. They're ready to get out and start spending money. We have the lowest new unemployment claims since the lockdowns began. Retail spending is way up. Coronavirus vaccines are allowing cities to safely reopen now. And it's, perfectly fine to be optimistic. They are very angry with that result. They don't like us winning. They don't like all the winning. They never liked the winning. That's why they voted for the loser. That's why they voted for the loser. And now they want to tell you that the loser didn't really lose, that he won. I mean, it's all twisted. It's backwards. And, it's 61% of America said they were optimistic about the coming year. 61% are optimistic about the coming year. We haven't seen a number that high with regard to American optimism about the next year since 2006. 2006. I hated the aughts. I never knew what to call them. They were just so cumbersome. It just never flowed from the lip, the aughts. But yeah, in 2006, this was before the economy crashed. Remember, this is before the 2008 debacle. This is before, they literally crashed our economy. They literally did. But in 2006, 61% were optimistic about where the country was headed. Okay. And now we have optimism that is higher than it was in 2006. It's 64%. That's almost 2/3 of America is optimistic about the direction the country is going in. Winning. And Republicans are pissed. They are peeved. They are angry. They're sad sacks, and they are denying this good news. And they continue to catastrophize about the downfall of Western civilization. Why? And they want to kick Liz Cheney out of their party, and they want, they're They're only happy when they're kicking things and taking people out and, beating things and hurting things and including themselves. It's very bizarre. What is going on the airlines? I don't know if you know this. Are you paying attention to this story? This is really freaky because we just started flying again. We just got back in the sky, okay? Although I will say a lot of people, some people had to fly for work and stuff like that, and some people just didn't give a rat's ass, and they flew anyway. But they were, having to wear a mask, right? Well, the Federal Aviation Administration is now putting out a warning to air travelers about a dramatic increase in unruly or dangerous passengers aboard our airplanes. The last time I heard about dangerous people on airplanes was 2000. Yeah, you know where I'm going, right? But I swear to God, they say in a typical year, you usually see the TSA usually sees somewhere between 100 and 150 formal complaints about bad passenger behavior. Well, just since the start of this year, January, 1,300, a remarkable number of passengers with really disgusting, disgraceful, dangerous behavior, not just refusing to wear masks, but drinking excessively and engaging in physical abuse, engaging in verbal abuse, engaging in assault against flight attendants, political intimidation, harassment of lawmakers that happen to be on the flight, fist fights breaking out over mask wearing. Washington, D.C., a passenger was escorted off a flight after arguing about the mask mandate with flight attendants. In Los Angeles, they had to divert a flight to Denver and make an emergency landing because a passenger tried to open an emergency exit in flight. I know you probably heard about the story because we're very, interested in news in this audience, right? Alaska Airlines had to ban an Alaska state legislator, a state senator, because she refused to wear a mask. And what's really crazy is it's like the only flight that goes to her hometown. So now it's going to take her 15, 20 hours to get home. That was smart. That's the kind of people you want in your Senate, right? But that was according to the Anchorage Daily News. And now, oh my God, I want you to see some of these. I'll play you this report because it's got video in it of what is really going on. And it is, it's I don't know what number it is. 10, 16, 17, 18, 19. Film here.
With the summer travel season about to kick off, the FAA says passenger behavior seems to have sunk to a new low this year. All-out fistfights spilling out of planes and into airports, with some passengers refusing to wear masks. Police called on board flights to remove passengers who refused to follow the federal mask rule. In Denver, fellow passengers were forced to hold down a man who tried to open an emergency exit in flight. In Las Vegas, this man climbed out onto the wing of a plane. While across the country, political tensions were especially high in January.
You're a joke. Absolute joke.
Members of Congress and ordinary citizens harassed.
We the people, not you the elitists.
Now the FAA reports unruly passenger behavior has skyrocketed this year, from 150 cases in a typical year to 1,300 reported cases in just 4 months.
The physical and verbal abuse that flight attendants have been taking has been way off the charts of any kind of air rage incidents that we've been talking about over the past 20 years.
The most bad behavior complaints involve passengers refusing to wear masks, bringing their own alcohol on board, engaging in political intimidation, verbally or physically assaulting other passengers and crew members.
Flight attendants being physically assaulted, pushed, choked. We had a passenger urinate. We had a passenger spit into the mouth of a child on board.
The mouth of a child? Okay, these are some really sad, angry freaks of nature. So I would suggest you tell them, we'll pay them to go get vaccinated so we could stop arguing about the masks, because it makes them angry. and violent.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
Now, the FAA is taking a zero-tolerance approach. Unruly passengers face potential criminal charges, fines of up to $35,000, and banned for life by the airlines. FAA Chief Steve Dixon, a former pilot and senior VP at Delta Airlines.
We've got to follow crew instructions on the aircraft, and it is not permissible, and we will not tolerate interfering with a flight crew in the performance of their safety duties, period.
Period. End of story. So listen. If you don't want to wear a mask, there's one surefire way that you could speed that up, and that's go get vaccinated. Now, the reason why I'm telling you what incentivizes people to go get vaccinated, and I point out to you that Democrats want to get paid, Republicans want to be told that they don't need to wear a mask anymore, that they can fly on an airplane, they don't have to pick fights, they don't have to open windows, they don't have to climb out on the wing, they don't have to spit in babies' mouths, they don't have to, drive, 20 hours because they got kicked off of the only airline that services their Alaska city, okay? It's just from Anchorage. So sad. These are such sad sacks, such angry, ugly, dangerous people. Spitting in a child's mouth. What is wrong with you? And what's with the bringing of your own alcohol on board a plane? I mean, you people are going to screw it up for everybody. They're going to ban alcohol on all flights because of people like you. They are. You won't even be able to have a little wine to settle your nerves on an airplane because people are abusing the privilege. And they are acting out, and just ban them for life. So guess what we have to do now? Taxpayers, guess what we have to do? We have to now pay for more air marshals to police the skies. The friendly skies are not friendly anymore. Why? Because Americans who are Republicans, who feel that they have a right to intimidate, they have the right to get in your baby's face and spit in its mouth. I don't know. They're urinating in the airplane. They're literally, why not just take a dump already? I mean, disgusting, vile. So we have to get those people vaxxed. And it seems like when I was looking at this UCLA survey of 75,000 people, that Republicans respond not to the message, oh, it'll protect you. No, definitely not to the message that it'll protect others. Oh, hell no. No, they responded to the message that they won't have to cover their traps, okay? That they won't have to wear a mask. That's what motivated them. Only 18% of them changed their minds at all, but at least it was 18% that changed their minds. 35% of Democrats changed their minds about getting a vaccine when you said you'd pay them. Somebody's very good at capitalism, and someone just sucks. As a human. I'll let you figure it out. And because of the anger that is just permeating throughout the GOP culture in this here country, the GOP is literally going to try and suppress the votes of the optimistic. But you see, here's the thing, here's the catch, and it's always something with them because they're not too bright. They're going to suppress their own voters. They're going to deprive their own voters of easy voting, of access to their ballot. And that's just going to make their voters even angrier and even uglier. So let's just try and, educate everybody about the places where voting, the cancel culture, right? They're canceling voters. That's what Ted Cruz and his ilk are all about. They're going to talk a big, big game about cancel culture and wokeness because, being awake is a condition in the Republican, crowd. You don't want to be awake. You don't want to be aware of your surroundings. Oh, no. And you certainly want to talk about cancel culture as your party is canceling your ability to vote. Makes no sense because it's nonsense. You understand? Okay, good. So anyway, they're going to restrict voting. Florida's already passed this crazy law. You know, Arizona's going about their own thing. Georgia did. And in the melee of voter suppression, their voters are going to be suppressed too. Now, here's how bad it is. Here in Florida, when Ron DeSantis decided that he was going to, pass voter suppression laws, even though Trump won Florida and we didn't have one single problem with voting or counting ballots. Not an issue here. It was a perfect election. So, hey, let's change it. It was so stupid. But of course, what they are doing is making you reapply this time for your absentee ballot if you want to vote that way. And quite frankly, people here are not used to having to do that. But that's what they want you to have to do if you want to access an absentee ballot or a mail-in ballot this time for 2022. Well, their voters are going to get screwed because their voters, they don't know about this. And unintentionally, they're making it harder for their voters to vote. Now, their voters here in Florida tend to be seniors. And seniors are not keeping up with this news, okay? And military, also members of the military, they always got their ballots mailed to them too. Well, that's changing. And those are their voters. Those are the GOP-aligned constituencies. So this is how bad it got. It got so bad that one former state party official actually said, well, can we exempt senior citizens from having to apply for their mail-in ballot? Can we exempt the military members from having to apply for their mail-in ballot? And the answer came back, no, because it raises equal protection issues. You have to treat all voters the same, even though we know that's a joke, right? You can't, legislate something like that and put it on paper like that because it violates equal protection. So now you're going to have seniors who have health problems or seniors that just don't go out anymore. They don't drive. Or if they do go out, they're driven or, they walk or whatever it is that they, and they don't know that the law has changed. And they just won't get their mail-in ballot. And they'll sit there and go, I didn't get mine, so I didn't vote. I know this because I had to work so hard to make sure, because my mom moved from my house to her apartment 3 miles from my house this year, and she didn't get her mail-in ballot, and it took an act of Congress pretty much for me to get that ballot to her. Never came by mail. It never did. We had to go and get it. Now that's when you have me as a daughter. My mother really wanted to vote, so, But honestly, if she didn't have me, I really don't think that my mother would have voted. You see what I'm saying over here? But they know this. The Republican Party knows this. And the reason why they're still going down this really bad road is because they know that they have fewer voters than Democrats do. And so if theirs have barriers placed in their way, they're betting that fewer voters for them will still mean a win for them because fewer Democrats. That's what they're betting on. That's how poorly they are. That's how poor they do at governing, solving problems, offering solutions, making things better. No, they have no ideas except to get everybody riled up and angry. It's all they have. It's all they have. And so that's what they're going with. They're going with voter suppression and riling up their base with anger and hostility and, whatever, racism, I guess. Because I cannot believe they made this deal with the devil, that they are willing to suppress their own voters. They're willing to restrict their own voters from having access to their ballots because they believe the numbers. They actually said, well, we'll lose some of ours but we'll lose more of theirs. That's what their conclusion was. This is how they solve problems. Let me tell you something right freaking now. If we can get this infrastructure package through, if we can actually create jobs for people that, like me, people that just pretty much graduated high school and never went to college kind of a thing, if we can create good paying opportunities for people like me, we can poach those very angry people out of the Republican Party and get them to become Biden Republicans.
Mary had a little lamb. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America. From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me. Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
We are going to drain the swamp.
But the swamp won, Donald. Mitch McConnell's Washington consultants are making big money using your name. We don't know if Mitch gets a cut, but what do you think, Donald?
My friend, Donald Trump.
You're getting played. He's picking candidates loyal to him. They brought you a little bowl to hold in your little hands, and you fell for it.
What happened?
They're laughing at you. All the way to the bank. Maybe you shouldn't run again. Maybe the power Mitch McConnell has over the GOP is just too much for you. Maybe what McConnell and the rest of Washington is saying is true. That Trump is done.
Oh! Wow.
You want to talk about kicking somebody when they're down. And
Holy crap, man. I mean, that's like, you're hanging on the ledge with, your fingertips and they step on your, your fingers. That is brutal. That is really ugly what's going on there between the Lincoln Project and the Trump, thing. Wow, just unbelievable. But yeah, that's kind of what happened. The GOP had it out with each other. That's who they fight. They fight each other. And we know that. We know that because we, on the other side of the aisle, are winning. We're winning. We are winning. He lost the House twice, this man did. Okay, he lost the Senate. He lost the presidency in 4 short years. And, we have 61, 64, 5, almost 2/3 of the country feeling very optimistic about the direction the country is going in under Joe Biden. Winning. Wow. And now we just set a goal to get another 100 million shots out the door by the 4th of July. Another 100 million shots out the door by the 4th of July. We have an infrastructure package that is going to put people to work in really seriously good paying American jobs that can't be outsourced, making things like charging stations on our highways and electric cars, et cetera, on it goes, right? Wind turbines and installing them and maintenance of wind turbines and batteries and larger batteries. I mean, just an amazing array of infrastructure investments, and we deserve to be invested in. Yes, us working people, we deserve the investment. Everybody knows that the elite have invested in each other for a really stinking long time. And Donald Trump threw in with them and transferred the middle class's tax wealth to the very top 1%, telling you, hey, it's going to trickle down. And it turns out it was just a man urinating on an airplane. Unbelievable. The GOP is freaking gone, man. They are gone.
Do you see in the Republican Party a party that believes enough in democracy to be negotiated with on big things that affect the American people?
Well, I think they've proven that they are not open to negotiation because they're not open to reality in too many cases. You just mentioned one, trying to deny and actually substitute totally false scenario for what we all saw with our own eyes on January 6th is indicative of how far gone they are. I mean, they've really, they're operating in an alternative reality. However, they have votes. And so I think what the Biden-Harris administration understands is you have to at least try to see whether there is a way to get the sensible members of the Republican Party that are left in the Senate to agree. And if they can, then move forward, trying to figure out how much can be agreed upon and then add whatever else you think is needed.
I don't know what she's talking about. There are 0 votes. There are no votes, no GOP votes for the infrastructure package in the Senate. There are no votes for background checks in the Senate. There are no votes for green energy in the Senate. There are no votes for any progress. The only thing the GOP is about is rewarding their donor class with even more of our dollars, our tax-paid dollars that we pay on our income. Mitch McConnell said it yesterday, okay?
Are you willing to consider and negotiate on an infrastructure package that it goes above the $600 billion that you guys are proposing? Or is that like a hard cap for y'all?
No. No, if it's going to be about infrastructure, let's make it about infrastructure.
It is about infrastructure.
And I think there is some sentiment on the Democratic side for splitting it off.
What?
And I think if they can't get all their ducks in a row, to use the reconciliation again, as you recall, they'll have to have every single Democrat in the Senate, all of them,
right,
in line,
right,
in lockstep,
right,
in order to do that.
Yeah.
A number of them are saying they agree with us. Why don't we make this bill about what both sides agree is infrastructure? And so I think it's worth talking about, but I don't think there'll be any Republican support.
None.
None. 0. For the $4.1 trillion grab bag, which has infrastructure in it, but a whole lot of other stuff.
$2 trillion worth of tax cuts to the wealthy that were not paid for was not a problem for Turtle Boy. It was not a problem for the swamp creatures. However, $1.8 trillion worth of infrastructure investment in actual job-creating activity that would benefit us directly, that's a non-starter for him. And when he says, you got to get all the Democrats, every one of them, lockstep, all in a row, everybody, he's talking about Joe Manchin. Yeah, he's talking about how he is going to, I don't know, fundraise for Joe Manchin, offer Joe Manchin something Joe Manchin wants, needs, has to have in exchange for his vote, and peel off a Joe Manchin from a unified Democratic caucus in the Senate to pass infrastructure reform, to pass family leave bills. You know, only a tiny little teeny tiny turtle brain would not understand that women are in the workforce just like men, and that we need child care. Men need child care. We need elder care in order to participate and go to full employment in this country. Everybody understands that that is part of the infrastructure that working families require in order to have the family working. Only they are going to say, no, it's just about potholes in Kentucky. Or, oh, no, it's just about a tarmac here and a tarmac. No. It's about the whole investment, and we deserve it. After long last, Americans deserve to be invested in. We will make that pay for itself many, many times over, because that is, in the end, that's who we are. And the reason why they are no, and the reason why they're parsing this, and the reason why they're saying electric cars and charging stations and elder care so we can go to work and not have to stay home with our aging parents, or child care so we can go to work and not have to stay at home and take care of a kid who's under 5 and isn't in kindergarten yet, or gets out of school at 3 o'clock, right? And then what do? Who works, who works 9 to 3? No one, right? The only reason why they're parsing it out like that is because they know that if this bill passes, just like every New Deal package that passed, except for maybe 2 that weren't really, the best ever, We had a growing middle class. We had the 50s were probably the most disposable income families ever had. And they know that if that happens again with massive investment in us, they will be a minority party, or maybe not even a party anymore. They'll go the way of the know-nothings, who, the know-nothings, they went away because their whole platform, racism, the whole thing.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
If you think about this country, I don't know of any other country in the world that was settled predominantly by people who were coming to practice their faith. They came here because they were not allowed to practice their particular faith in their own country, and so they came here mostly from Europe, and they set up a country that was based on Judeo-Christian principles.
Oh, my God.
I say Judeo-Christian, the Mosaic Laws, 10 Commandments, and the teachings of Jesus Christ, the morals and teachings of Jesus Christ. That's what our founding documents are based upon.
Oh, my God.
It's in our DNA. If you think of other countries like Italy and Greece and China and Turkey and places like that, they've all sort of changed over time. I mean, they've been there for millennia in many cases, and their culture has sort of evolved over time. But not us. We came here and created a blank slate. We birthed a nation from nothing. I mean, there was nothing here. I mean, yes, we have Native Americans, but candidly, that there isn't much Native American culture in American culture.
Oh,
it was born of the people who came here pursuing religious liberty to practice their faith, to live as they ought to live, and have the freedom to do so. Religious liberty. Those are the two bulwarks of America, faith and freedom. I mean, you hear it all the time now, faith and freedom, faith and freedom. But it is what makes America unique in the world.
Oh, my God. You talk about the know-nothings. There's Rick Santorum over there. There he is, the guy who's, anti-gay, who's just, anti-everything, really. Rick Santorum is. But now he's denying that, well, first of all, let's just discuss the Pilgrims. They came here so that they could say women were witches, okay, and burn them at the stake. They came here with their indentured servants. They were not about freedom. No, they were about owning others. They were about the Salem witch trials. They were separatists, the Pilgrims were. In fact, they had to have a compact on the Mayflower not to kill each other because they disagreed about which religion was the right one. Holy crap, this rewriting of history and talking about Native Americans as if, why is he talking about Native American culture as if it's in the past tense? What the hell is that about? Oh my God, we birthed a nation from nothing? I mean, there was nothing here, he said. There isn't much Native American culture in American culture. What is wrong with him? Honestly, what is wrong with him? I tell you, Don Lemon heard that last night, and because this was on Chris Cuomo's show, and they do a crossover. You know how people do crossovers between the show, like Rachel does it with Lawrence O'Donnell, right? And sometimes with Chris Hayes to Rachel, and then Rachel to Lawrence. Well, they do it. CNN does it too with Chris Cuomo into Don Lemon, because they're really friends. They're good friends, and I swear to God, Don Lemon was having none of it.
Rick Santorum, really? Who did he actually think it was a good idea for him to come on television and try to whitewash the whitewash that he whitewashed? I mean, it was horrible. It was horrible and insulting, and I apologize to the viewers who were insulted by it, because I was sitting in my office furious, because he's done it so many times.
Yep.
So many times. And it's just, I'm sorry, it was just, it was so egregious and insulting, and everything that we talk about about the founding of this country. Europeans did not found this country. It was here. The Native Americans had this country before the Europeans came. Yeah, the Europeans conquered the country. They colonized it, but they didn't. It had nothing to do with the founding of this country.
Seriously, dude. I mean, look, but it's Santorum. If you Google his name, you'll see what it is, right? But honestly, this is a man who has made a living out of trashing other people. He made an entire living by equating homosexuality to bestiality. He got himself elected over and over. Same-sex marriage. He's anti-minority. Like, what's wrong with these black people? That's why bad trouble happens. There's something wrong with these gay people. There's something wrong with people who want reproductive rights. They're murderers. They're not us. They're not us. You know, I mean, he is such a divider. He is such a white supremacist, racist dude who, you know, managed to. But here's the ultimate question. Why is he paid by CNN? Why is he still on CNN? Why is he still invited to do those shows? He means nothing to us. He doesn't hold any office. It's not like there's some public service message that we need to pay attention to. That's the same thing. You know, Facebook is going to decide tomorrow whether or not Donald Trump gets to go back on Facebook. And the answer clearly is no. Okay, that man went on Facebook when he was president, and they had a carve-out for public servants, public figures, right? They had this carve-out so that if you were president of the United States or if you were a dictator in Saudi Arabia, you were treated differently than everybody else because of the office you held. Well, Trump no longer holds any office. Trump is leaving his Southern country club to go to his New Jersey country club, crashing weddings and talking bullcrap and making people doubt our own elections in a free and fair country, right? So the answer clearly for Facebook should be no. He shouldn't be allowed on after he incited violence. And then after the violence happened on January 6th, he praised it. Told them on Facebook that they were very special, that you should remember this day forever. That's what he put on Facebook after January 6th. And that's when Facebook finally pulled him down. No, he should not be allowed back on Facebook. But Rick Santorum should not be allowed on CNN. Now, they're going to say, oh, that's cancel culture. No, my friends, that's decency and respect for others. What's cancel culture is stealing your mail-in ballot by legislating it out of your hot little hands, even though nothing bad happened. That's canceling you. Just remember, everything that they accuse others of doing, they're doing themselves. Okay? So when they're sitting there saying woke culture, there's, oh, go back to sleep, everybody. Go. No, stay awake, please, and leave the lights on so the cockroaches can't scatter all over the place again. No, stay awake. Being awake is a good thing when you're making decisions, solving problems, spending money, planning budgets. I would say being awake is an asset. And when they start screaming cancel culture because you want to take indecent people off of, news programs, people that insult entire segments of our population for power and personal gain, that's called decency. That's not canceling culture. They're canceling you and your ability to vote by screaming cancel culture. Unreal.
Call in, connect.
Yeah.
To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
Oh, hey, everybody. If you're vaccinated, go ahead and celebrate that fact. I had this idea for a T-shirt today, and Jimmy's already made it. So go to randirhodes.com. It says vaccinated because I'm not an idiot. Let's see what that does to our culture. Let's see what that does to our society. I think it'll be fun. Just go reward yourself. You got vaccinated, go scream it out to the world. Scream it out. Anyway, Does Rick Santorum understand pilgrims at all? Does he understand what happened in 1620? Does he? We all know what happened in 1619, right? Okay, does he understand what happened in 1620? Does he understand that the pilgrims did not come here to break away from the King of England? That they came here to spread the King of England's brand of religiosity? Why are these people so stupid? And why do they feed people lies like that as if no one's Google machine works? What is that about? Why doesn't he credit Native Americans with saving the behinds of these pilgrims who came here to persecute women, who came here to own other people, right? And came here to remain loyal to King James, okay? That's what they were here to do. Why doesn't he know about that? Why doesn't he understand that Native Americans saved their colonies because they didn't know how to do jack crap? They didn't know, they were frail little English people. They needed help to get through the harsh winters. They didn't know how to plant. They didn't know how to harvest. They didn't know nothing. All they knew was, if a woman floated, she was a witch. If she drowned, she wasn't a witch. Brilliant. Brilliant. What is wrong with him? Rhonda and Erie.
Okay.
All right.
So last week you were talking about television shows and not watching, not being able to watch a lot of television.
Yeah.
So I want to suggest Exterminate All the Brutes if you have HBO.
I do.
And here's why. Okay. Everything that I watched it. I took, it's 4 parts, an hour each. I split it up into 2 days. I finished it yesterday. And I thought I knew a lot. I did know a lot of stuff, but not as much as what's in this documentary.
Oh, it's a documentary. Okay.
It's a documentary series, but it's Raoul Peck, and his work is documentarian, but it's very different than a lot of other kind of straightforward documentary filmmakers. But
I love documentary as a genre. I love it.
I was listening to you. And he's fantastic. I love his work, but I was just listening to Rick Santorum, again, and I heard it before I watched the documentary, but now I hear it, what he's saying, through the lens of the information that I got in this documentary. I mean, it weaves together where we are, history and culture and ideology. It weaves it together. At the end of it, you really there's no excuse to not understand what's actually going on, not just in the United States, but in the world today. So I highly recommend it.
Okay, so it's HBO, Exterminate All the
Brutes.
All the Brutes. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I will.
From a line in Joseph Conrad's novel, Heart of Darkness.
Now you're talking. Yeah, now you're appealing to me. Yeah, all right. I will. I'll watch it this weekend. I promise. I really will. I'm always looking for some damn thing on the weekend, but yeah, I'll do that.
It'll give you a different lens through which to look at all of this stuff that that is going on in the United States right now.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thanks, Rhonda.
All right, happy viewing.
You too. Mark and Philly.
Hey, Randy, how you doing?
Good.
Hey, you hit the nail on the head with the pilgrim thing. America was created to separate church from state because England had an evil church. Their church killed their own people.
Yeah.
They controlled the women. They were evil. They killed people. They put them in stocks. They forced them to. They took their money. They forced them to do things. America was created to get away from that and actually accept science and evolve and stay and give people individual rights.
I don't know why he sits there and says this swill and people actually listen to it and go, well, that's right. I mean, they came here, the Europeans did, to escape the King of England. No, they came here to spread that kind of disgusting, putrid, torturous Tower of London, rip out people's fingernails, kind of religion, which is what they what they had. That's what the Pilgrims were here to do.
Listen, we have bulldozers now. We dug up dinosaurs and Neanderthal bones. I mean, it's 600 years, 500 years ago that happened. America was supposed to evolve. There's even constitutional amendments about science to accept science. I mean, we discovered dinosaurs and Neanderthal fossils in the last 400 years because we have bulldozers now, and there's less religion. And nobody's attacking people's religion. That was a fear tactic of Trump trying to make people think, well, we're the party of God.
But he's the most irreligious guy that ever came down the pike. Okay, this is a guy who literally hangs out with pedophiles and liars. If lying,
and Stormy Daniels, and 3 different wives.
If lying isn't immoral, then what is?
He broke every commandment there is in less than 4 years, and what did he do his whole life before he was president? He was the Hugh Hefner of New York.
Yeah, but moral. Forget the sex part, okay? That's almost Puritanism, in and of itself.
Right. That's Matt Gaetz. Matt Gaetz.
No. What I'm saying is that's where people's minds go when you say immorality. But what's more immoral than lying? Nothing. Bearing false witness is right up there with adultery. So I'm not sure why people excuse the lying and then say he is a Christian man. No, he's an immoral creature made out of greed and want and wanton disregard for human life. I mean, what is the deal with that? I don't even know.
Absolutely, propaganda. Making a claim for votes. I think it's backfiring on them. Listen, the young women in America are leaving these red states. There's plenty of religion here. They don't want the government pushing in on them and control it, making their 14-year-old daughter have a baby. That's child abuse. Who wants a state or a government to force you to make your children have babies that shouldn't have babies? That's actually child abuse. 14-year-olds are not supposed to have kids. They can't even work and support themselves. Some of them won't survive a childbirth, and they could still be religious and save their own life. I mean, God gave us a brain if you're religious. But the point of it is, but he made it so the government, it became a church, a bad church, a Paula White devil-worshipping church. Like I said, we dug up dinosaurs and Neanderthal fossils, and the Democrats at least believe in science, medicine.
Well, it's interesting. They used to say that religion was the opiate of the masses. Now, here in America, opium is the opiate of the masses. But a number 2 would be this crazy Rick Santorum version of piousness.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
Are you ready for this? All right. Mike in California.
Yes, ma'am, Randy.
Yes.
I just read on Facebook that the priest, the bishop of Washington D.C. said that he does not want Joe Biden or Nancy Pelosi to take communion anymore.
Facebook.
Oh, okay.
Facebook.
Everybody's a hypocrite. What is Facebook? Can you tell me what
are you reading on Facebook? I mean, where did it come from? What is it? A meme or what is it?
It was CBS News, something like that.
CBS News? What is CBS News?
I don't know. It's on Facebook.
I don't either. So why, if you don't know what it is, why are you actually calling a radio show or TV show and saying that as fact?
Okay. Can you ask me another question? I just asked your guy, I said, what did Donald Trump ever say about the gay people or the LGBT?
What did he ever say? I have no idea.
Oh, but you said I think you said that he was criticized.
No, I was talking about Rick Santorum. You really need to get off Facebook.
Oh, okay.
All right, thank you.
God, he forgot to tell you how macho Trump was, which was a big part of his call originally.
Yeah, he sounded very virile, this caller here. Wow, Facebook. Facebook is going to be the demise of democracy. You understand that. Donnie in Virginia.
Hey, Randi Rhodes, nice to
speak to you again. It's been a long time. I just want to say one thing. We're talking about Rick Santorum and all these other people, Bill Barr, the Koch brothers.
I wasn't talking about any of them except Rick Santorum, but okay.
I understand at some point you have talked about them. The point is they're right-wing Catholics.
Yeah, see, but I knew where you were going. You're going to go to right-wing Catholicism, and I didn't talk about Bill Barr or any other, just Rick Santorum I was talking about.
Okay, I understand, but you have talked about Bill Barr before, correct? Obviously.
Not his religion.
Okay, well, what I'm saying is the Republican Party is controlled by right-wing Catholics. And
it is?
Conservative, yeah, it is. People have written books on this. I wish y'all would explore it more, you and progressive radio and TV.
So where does the evangelical community come into the GOP and the control over the issues? If it's
exactly.
No, that's not Catholicism. That's evangelical Christianity. These are two different things. You understand? All right.
Yes,
okay.
Exactly. That's my point. They're two different things, and they don't like each other. So Democrats are going to have to figure out how to politically divide and conquer right-wing Catholics versus conservative evangelicals.
So this is why we have a separation of church and state, where you have the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, who is a devoted Catholic. You also have Joe Biden.
Not right-wing.
But that you're saying that the same church controls a right-wing lunatic fringe, and it's the same church that Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi belong to. So I don't get. I don't get it.
I'm just speaking politically. I'm just speaking.
Well,
politically.
I'm telling you. I'm telling you. I have no earthly idea what you're talking about. Okay.
What I'm saying is, eventually, we're going to have to be able to split them up so the Republican Party can't have as much power as they have.
What are you talking about?
To split up conservative evangelicals versus right-wing Catholics, because they don't like each other, but politically they form a bond.
The church is the church, and politicians will use the church as an excuse.
Right. I understand that. I'm speaking of politics. I'm not focusing on religion. I'm speaking on the
what we have here is the separation of church and state, and I think that's where you should devote your effort, your time and attention, to keeping the separation of church and state.
Republicans, their main platform is
you cannot trash Republican Catholics and not be trashing Democratic Catholics. You can't.
No. What do you mean? You think Joe Biden's politics are the same as Bill Barr's?
No, but I think his church is the same. His church is exactly the same. Bill Barr and Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi and Rick Santorum are all part of the same church.
But I'm not attacking the church. I'm attacking one's politics.
No, you're not. And you're missing the mark by a long, long mile. I mean, like I keep saying, words matter. It's like saying lightning bug or lightning. They're two different things, okay? And you're saying that a church that all these people belong to, Joe Biden belongs to it, Nancy Pelosi belongs to it, Bill Barr belongs to it, Rick Santorum belongs to it, that the church is responsible for the way that they conduct their political lives? No.
I said right-wing Catholic.
There's no such thing.
There's no such thing as right-wing Catholic?
No, because there's a separation between church and state.
Okay, but isn't the Republican Party built mainly...
Okay, I'm done with you, really. You just don't get it. That you cannot sit there and trash an entire church whose members are diverse and say that church is responsible for Bill Barr's excusal of criminal activity, or that Rick Santorum's hatred of gay people is the same as Nancy Pelosi. It makes no sense. They're all part of the same church. They're just, Rick Santorum is an opportunist who's using, a position and saying it's somehow endorsed by the church. It is not. It's ridiculous. You're being ridiculous, and you're missing the bigger point, which is this is a country that became a country that has a constitution to break away from the church having anything to do with politics. separation of church and state. And once you actually realize that that is a real thing, then you can understand that Nancy Pelosi, Joe Biden, Bill Barr, and Rick Santorum can all be members of the same church. Without understanding that, you cannot explain how they're members of the same church, and they are. Jackie in California.
Oh my God, Randy! I feel like I'm exhausted by the last two callers.
I don't understand what they're driving at.
Like, I was totally going, happy to get on the phone and talk with you, and then became exhausted for you.
Yeah, it is exhausting.
But anyway, this is Jackie from California. I'm the little girl voice, but actually a 50-year-old woman. And I just sound 12, so I'll just get that out of the way.
All right.
But I did, and if there's any job opportunities to walk around with a bullhorn and have some fun with Rick Santorum, Lindsey Graham, Mitch McConnell, my all-time favorite. If somebody could pay me a full-time wage, I would be more than happy to walk around and follow them, just in case, George Soros is listening.
No, but you could move to Detroit and you could drive people to get vaccinated and make $50 a person.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's not enough, unfortunately. I got a child and a horse to take care of.
A child and a horse.
I need a little more than that. But anyway, so why I was calling is originally a while ago was because I listen to you every day. I got a little depressed because, I've gotten my vaccination. I'm really, into it. And I felt like, wow, is all this for nothing? So before your show, I had written down a bunch of things that I thought would change that, happening. Because like you said, first of all, if flying, you have to be vaccinated and show a card. Those, vaccination fearful people or just, stubborn would have to get it done. If there was a stimulus, stimulus sent again, but you had to show proof of vaccine, you got to do it for schools, bars, Disneyland, golf, baseball, football, all these things that Americans love, and you have to be vaccinated. That's the only way I can foresee it all becoming, a herd immunity type situation.
Yeah, but
which it better be if I got vaccinated.
Well, listen, I get it. I understand what you're saying, but I think, look, Florida just banned COVID passports. They just banned it. And that's what will happen if the government starts mandating anything about vaccines. Oh, by the way, I found out yesterday, thank you to everybody that wrote me. I got so much email about this. So the reason why the military, why you could turn down a vaccine in the military is because it's just an emergency use authorized vaccine. It's not FDA approved. That's why informed consent is at play. That's why people can say no to it. Listen, it's very difficult to have a government mandate a vaccine. I don't think that's what you were saying, but private business could.